one constant feeling reigns over the 130-plus year history of NC State Wolfpack football. Hope. And when there's hope, well, Pack fans can always relate. Pack family, time for a true look at your team. Expert analysis, special guests, and a Carter Finley-sized bag full of X's and O's. Let's get hooked up for Pack Therapy. Here are your hosts, Tim Donnelly and Wolfpack great Mike Glennon.
Welcome into the regular season is over. North Carolina State beat North Carolina. Edition of Pack Therapy. I'm Tim Donnelly, co-host as always, Mike Glennon, former NC State quarterback. And follow us everywhere you can follow podcasts. We're on every different podcasting service. Start with that. Like, subscribe, comment, pass it on to your friends. And now, without further ado, I do feel like there's, excuse me, and you can probably hear my voice is a little scratchy, but we're going to fight through it. All that screaming watching the State Carolina game. I do feel like there's I don't know, you got to like present the floor to every like NC State football player, both current and former, to like talk their trash. Salty Dave took it in. Payton Wilson after the game got his shots in. Mike, do you have any shots you want to send?
I don't have any shots to send. I just think that was a good old fashioned butt whipping. I mean, the whole SEC, like it just matters more. Yep. It felt like it matters more to NC State, and I think it's one of my observations of the game was credit to NC State fans. I mean, in Carter Finley, you saw barely any Carolina blue. Whenever NC State plays at Kenan Stadium, it's like over a quarter of the stadium is red. I mean, it's just – and I think Dave Doeren does a great job embracing that, and the fans respond to it. It's just – it really looked like a team that wanted it more and dominated it from the get-go, and it was a beautiful thing.
I saw Marquise Williams, former North Carolina quarterback, on Twitter before the game said, "Hey, I better see a lot of blue in their stadium because when they come here, I see a lot of red." And so I watched the game on television. I was with family, and I kept waiting for the crowd shots to be like, "Is there any?" And you really couldn't see much blue, which, like you said, it's a credit to the fan base. And when players and former players are noticing that, it's a good thing. What did you make of what's being called Salty Dave? And also Payton Wilson. Payton Wilson kind of cut a promo after the game. If you want culture, come to Raleigh. Those boys in blue don't know anything about that. I think it's fair game, but it's also, all right, you're writing a check now that the future Wolfpack are going to have to cash.
I think it's fair game, and I think the players respond to it. It's like they feel like it's something they need to back up. And on the flip side, Mac Brown, I will say, he seems like a great guy. He's charismatic, but his way of doing it is, oh, well, they got great coaches. I like them. And it's almost like that felt like that's the approach their players took. And at NC State, it's more of a hatred. It is that, you think you're better than us. You think we're your little brother. And you know what? Little brother got the best of big brother. And that's been
30 straight years.
And since I've come to NC State, it feels majority of the time that's what it is, And it kind of, they take the attitude of the head coach, and that's what Dave does, and that's what the fans love about Dave is he wins enough. I say it all the time. He wins to get us into a bowl game. He beats Carolina, and he has these one-liners after he plays Carolina. And you saw him in the locker room, what he said. And I don't know if he knew. Was that too far? I don't know if he knew the ACC Network cameras were in there. But I think that's your locker room. That's like inside your own house. You're allowed to say whatever you want to say in there. So I loved it. The fans loved it. It was it just kind of embodied the whole season of what Dave's been saying. He's backed it up. Payton Wilson, his play, he backs it up with the talk. And then Brennan Armstrong. I mean, the Virginia Tech game to me was the best game he had played for NC State. And what he battled, not practicing all week and having his best game throwing the ball, it was remarkable, and it was the kind of the cherry on top of a feel-good story to end the season.
Let's talk Brennan Armstrong, because it was obvious he wasn't 100%. And there were a couple plays where, like, he ran out of bounds a yard short of the first down, and I'm going, uh-oh. Like, part of Brennan Armstrong's thing is, he gets that extra yard. That's what he brings to the table. And he was maybe more effective than he had been most of the season, definitely most of the season, but even on this latest hot streak, getting it done through the air and kind of being a player that we really hadn't seen from him since 2021, which Yeah, I didn't expect. I was expecting, all right, they're holding him out of practice. It's so he can lower the lumber and be what he's been. But he was obviously much more of a passer.
And I think the fans understood when he was sliding near the goal line. It was like something is clearly wrong with this guy because he's as tough as they come, and if he's in that much pain that he's not willing to, basically score a touchdown. And I think there was like
he goes helicopter to pick up 4 yards on 3rd and 7 when you're going to punt
out of bounds. I mean, I don't think people realize how painful that is when you have a rib. If what I understand, I think was a rib injury. And not only do you feel it when you get hit, you kind of feel it on every time you throw. And for him, like you said, that was the 2021 version that we've all been talking about, the 4,000 yards. It was, that's what I think Robert and I, when he said to Dave Doeren, I want to bring in Brennan Armstrong, that's what he remembers. And I think it was just so good to see. He still has it. I don't know if it was a mental funk or what, but the guy can play football, and he's really the kind of quarterback that I feel like is perfect at NC State, that embraces what Dave wants, talk about culture, that tough-minded, the physicality of it. And then finally it was like the receivers, the line, the quarterback all came together. It was the perfect storm of what we've been waiting to see all year. So it was just awesome to see Brennan, the receivers, have a big game. It was you couldn't have drawn out that game any better.
And we asked this question going into this game, this obviously rivalry game. Best coaching job for Dave Doeren since he's been in Raleigh?
I think it has to be. It was, halfway through the season, we kind of talked about, we got a whole new season. And that's a lot of time just coach speak. But and I'll give him credit. The whole Steve Smith calling him out, it was like there was all these little different motivating factors that I think he found a way to rally on. Really, from benching Brennan Armstrong and going with MJ Morris, I feel like the team rallied around that. And then it was the Steve Smith thing where he felt disrespected, and I felt like the team rallied around that. And then it was MJ Morris signing a red shirt and going back to Brennan, and I think the team rallied around that. It was like he did a great job from the leadership standpoint. He did a great job from the defense was great from the get-go, but making minor adjustments along the way to not kind of give up the big plays. And then offensively, whether it was him, whether it was Robert and I, they reinvented the offense, which is not easy to do during a bye week. They found what they had in Casey Concepcion, and they just found a way to grind it out to win with the defense and the offense to kind of slow the game down by huddling up, kind of running a trickery offense, getting Casey the ball as many ways as they can. It was, to me, the best coaching job by Dave Doeren since he's been here.
To be honest, sometimes I think the motive, like with that kind of stuff, gets overplayed. Like, a great speech changed the whole season, and I'm going they started playing a lot better. They started using more play action. Like, there's usually a logical, scheme-based or talent-based, their offensive line got healthy.
That is definitely part of it.
Right at the same time that, all of this motivation kicked in. But it does feel like this year it actually, like the rallying around did change something, which I almost hate to admit, because so often I am saying did everybody started trying hard when, they finally started getting the ball to their best playmaker? And it's, well, yeah, kind of. Like, it did feel like the us against the world mentality started fighting at the same time that kind of some of the scheme things that we had been asking for also started happening. So it was that mixture.
And I feel like it's almost like you hear some of the greatest athletes in the world. They find a way to get like a chip on their shoulder. Yeah. It's like Tiger Woods, Kobe Bryant, these guys, like, they look for things to motivate them, and I feel like Dave did that, and he got the guys to believe in it. And
but that's a perfect example. Like, sometimes I'm wondering, like, did Kobe really read an article of someone criticizing him, or is he just Kobe Bryant and he's going to be great anyway?
Well, there is truth to that, but
think this year, I think I'm with you. It did feel like, the Steve Smith Sr. thing mattered, even though in most cases I don't think it does. It did feel like for this year, NC State, the way Dave Doeren handled all the social issues mattered a lot.
It did. And he kind of thought it was low-hanging fruit when he went after Steve Smith, but I'll give him credit that it felt like the team bought into it. So whether it really bothered him or not, I don't know. It did seem like it did, but he psychologically it worked. So,
I think he was going to go after the biggest name that said anything negative about State. Like he knew he needed that, and he was just waiting for someone to say it. And Steve Smith Sr. was the one. And then, like you said, I do think there's some deep-seated, like, you got to talk it out stuff about basketball school, like, versus football school. I think there's a lot of that in the triangle, but at NC State exactly. So I think he was waiting to pounce on that. Let's get this one out of the way early. Payton Wilson, finalist for the Chuck Bednarik Award. Is he the best defensive player in the country?
He is. He's the best college player. And, you know, it kind of makes me think, should he be the first defensive player off the draft board this year? No. But I think he is deserving of being the best player in, you know, defensive player in the country. And hopefully he walks away with that trophy. I think it's well deserved. And he's had as big of an impact on the program as anyone I can probably remember. You know, this 23 season, I think every NC State fan will think of it as the Payton Wilson's last year.
Let's quickly do the NFL prospect thing for him, because, you know, the hay is in the barn for the most part, right? Like the what he's put on tape. I mean, just against North Carolina, right? There's a lot of NFL guys on the other side there. Drake May is going to be in the NFL. Tez Walker is going to be in the NFL. Omarion Hampton's going to be in the NFL. Nesbitt's going to be in the NFL. And when NC State's defense and North Carolina's offense were on the field, Payton Wilson was the best player on the field. And yes, college production doesn't always add up to NFL production. But if I'm a contender, picking at not the end of the first round, but the end of round 2 or 3, and I'm looking for someone that can help me win right now rather than maybe a project or, hey, you know, I think he could step into an NFL defense right now and play. I don't know if he'll be a Pro Bowler. I don't know if he'll be getting 15 tackles, a forced fumble, an interception, and a sack like he did against North Carolina. But, you know, with the age, the experience, and just his raw physical talent, instincts, I think he could be a contributor on one of the better defenses right now.
I 100% agree. The linebacker position typically doesn't get drafted as high, so that automatically takes a little hit. His injury history is going to cost him a little bit, but I just don't see how he's not a day 2 pick. Yep. I mean,
I think to a contender too. I think it's to somebody
impact.
Who's like, we need an off-ball linebacker and we need him to play right now, and we don't have the 15th overall pick to go get one of the super duper prospects. I think he fits that role so perfectly.
He's when the coaches turn on the tape, they're going to love him. The tenacity he plays with, the motor, the athleticism. He's got the speed. He's got the size. I mean, he when he walks into the NFL, he's going to be one of the biggest linebackers in the league right from the get-go. I mean, you don't see many guys that tall, that big. And he can run. I mean, sometimes those linebackers are smaller because they can run, and you got to be able to cover as a linebacker in the NFL. That's one thing. He was kind of more of a rusher and a run stopper than he is a cover guy. But, you know, he made plays and kind of dropping into his own coverage. And he can run with guys. Now, there's a difference between being able to run and cover, especially in the NFL when you're going against – he's going to be expected to cover guys like Travis Kelce or a really good running back out of the backfield. But I just don't see how he doesn't make it past, you know, in that second day, round 2 or 3. Honestly, I think late second is definitely where I could see him going, to your point, to a contender.
And with the bowl, hopefully we get one more chance to see him. You always have to ask those questions of if and will. And I don't see him sitting out because he seems like the type of guy who's, you know, if I get one more chance to hit somebody, I'm going to hit somebody. But we'll see how all that plays out. We'll take a quick break here on Pack Therapy. After this, we have to get to the other bit of the post-game news from Dave Doeren, which is please give money to the NIL collectives, and then they spent some of that money. So stick around, Pack Therapy, coming back after this. Back on Pack Therapy here with Mike Glennon, my co-host, former NC State quarterback, longtime NFL quarterback, and NC State beat North Carolina. We've given Mike his time to talk the trash. He said, I'm not gonna pile on, and then he said it was a good old-fashioned butt whipping, which, you know, kind of a little piling on. There was a lot of extra that comes out of this game, and not just the trash talk, which I think is great in a rivalry, but after the game, Dave Doeren basically made the plea. He said, I'd love to see 5,000 State fans give $1,000 each to Savage Wolves, to Pack of Wolves, the two collectives that are supporting NC State. That's a coach asking for $5 million right after a rivalry win, which is weird but necessary. Like, how do I feel like the theme of this podcast at times is like, oh, how things have changed, but oh, how things have changed. That's wild.
Yeah, strike while the iron's high. I don't think you're ever gonna have as much momentum now as as he does. I mean, you went 5 in a row. You beat Clemson, Miami, and you just beat the brakes off of your rival in Carolina with a possible 10-win season. And it's kind of like a feel-good. Like last year, there was a lot of hype, leading up to the Clemson game. There's the first couple games, Devin Leary, this whole crew. But then you lose, and the season kind of gets away from you. Now, NC State fans already can't wait for next September to come around. And the way that he won that game, the way you talk about the culture of Payton Wilson, all those little one-liners, that's what NC State fans love. So I think it was brilliant of him to bring it up, even though some people may not agree with it. It's like that. This is what we need now. We got this really good player, number 10, Casey Concepcion, that I'm sure other teams are going to be offering a lot of money if we don't get him now. And I also sometimes drive around Raleigh, I see this thing with a Clemson logo called, I think it's like IPTE, I pay $1,000 a year. And that's what Clemson's kind of booster club does.
The all-in.
And maybe now we're, we're going to have to do that. It's just, like you said, it's just totally different times. It goes from the whole Wolfpack club of donating to scholarships and facilities to now this NIL seems more important. The sustainability, the longevity of it, what's going to happen with the NCAA, I don't know, but it's important right now, and Dave's got to capitalize on it while things with so much momentum, so much excitement around this program, more than I've ever seen since I've been here.
To me, it showed how much NC State is embracing it, right? You see some schools, some coaches kind of resisting and fighting against it, and like you said, I don't know if State, I don't know if the Pack of Wolves or the Savage Wolves are ever going to have the resources that some of the quote unquote blue blood schools are going to have in their name, image, and likeness funds. But what they can be is wildly organized and efficient. And, I'm just looking at like the 4 days, right? Saturday, you beat your rival. You beat the brakes off them, right? After the game, the coach says, hey, give money. I need $1,000 from 5,000 of you. They raise a bunch of money. I don't think they got the $5 million, but they raise a bunch of money. And then on Tuesday, one of the collective, Savage Wolves, announces they've signed Casey Concepcion for the 2024 season. That is wild. Like, that is business. We'd be proud of that in our business office. It's like, hey, we got a goal on Saturday. We have to take care of business here. Boom, we take care of business. Let's capitalize on it. Boom, we get the money. Let's. How are we going to spend it? Priority number 1, get Casey Concepcion locked up for the next year. By Tuesday, it's done. That is as efficient as anything in college football.
It truly is like a master class on business and marketing. I mean, you have Dave do this to raise money. Then I see that Casey Concepcion is taking a private jet up to Monday Night Football with the Savage Wolves guy. And then he comes back on
Hangs
Tuesday.
out with Thayer Thomas on the sideline, like just building on everything.
Snoozing them. You got your client. You're trying to impress them. And then Tuesday you come back and it says signed, like it's an NFL free agent that's coming back for a long-term extension. And then it's like he's agreed to a 1-year contract with Savage Wolves. I mean, I don't even know what a 1-year contract means.
I was asking this yesterday on my afternoon show. I don't know if that means like there's a buyout if he goes somewhere else.
Right.
I don't know if it's the money he's getting is tied to him. I don't know.
Because what
is it
what
an exclusivity?
Terminating that contract? Like, okay, just hypothetical situation. Alabama comes in and says, "Oh, you're making X from NC State. Well, you know what? We'll pay you double that." And then can't he just shred that contract and go leave anyway?
I'm not sure. I think it might be some kind of exclusivity deal where like all of his marketing and endorsements have to go through Pack of Wolves. Maybe or Savage Wolves.
Right.
Sorry. Again, I'm not on the inside. Don't go to Savage Wolves and say they said this. But I think that's probably the way to do it, because then if he went to another school, even the name, image, and likeness money he would get from other boosters would have to go through Savage Wolves, right? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is they announced the signing in the same way you would announce, like if Brian Burns announced he was extending with the Carolina Panthers. Yeah. It was like, hey, he's not going anywhere. Right. We've locked in the guy. He's a freshman on a college football team. It was big news that he is still going to be on the college football team next year. it's great news, and their offense needs him. And I think he can kickstart something in the transfer portal that's I'll talk about in a second. But I mean, him signing for another year is about as good as you could expect based on, the way everything went. Because I think every school in the country would want it.
Yeah, and that just adds to the momentum that has been built over these past 5 weeks as you win those games, and now you get him back. And then I think also what the momentum of NIL is, I think State fans probably halfway through the season was like, I can't believe we spent money on Brennan Armstrong. But then you leave and you say, we love Brennan Armstrong. This is one of our favorite players, and he was a product of NIL and the collectives given money. So you kind of see, well, now we got to go get another quarterback potentially, assuming that MJ Morris isn't in the plans. But it's just like we talk about it all the time. It's just a new era of college football, and it's going to be wild the next couple of weeks with the transfer portal of what this team begins to look like for next year.
And now here's the next step. It is Casey Concepcion signing with Savage Wolves, like electing to stay at NC State. It is great because you get him. It's also an endorsement, meaning if there's someone else out there in the transfer portal, Casey Concepcion could have gone anywhere, right? And he could have made a lot of money. Like, I truly believe the best schools in the country, if he hit the portal, would have been on his doorstep, right? And that's a testament to him. He chose to stay at NC State. That's like what do they have going on there, right? It's
for sure.
And he's going to say, listen, they take care of you in NIL. Right, they provide you with cool experiences. I was at Monday Night Football. They've taken care of me financially. They've featured me in the offense. The coaches are cool. Like, all of that sort of thing is big in the portal. And that momentum works, right? Somebody chooses to stay. Someone else chooses to come play with them. Someone else chooses to come play with that person. It works in both ways. If your best player hits the transfer portal and leaves, everybody's going, well, I don't want to go stay there. Their best player just left. So it's the next step is, right, and we're talking business and marketing way too much on a football podcast, is to how to build off of that. TaMarcus Cooley, a guy was a top target for NC State. He chose Maryland over NC State. He just announced he's going into the portal. If you look at his Twitter, like the last 15 posts are all reposting of NC State football stuff, and it's going like, oh, maybe he realizes the mistake he made, and he would have been in the same class with Casey Concepcion coming to play with them. Maybe he ends up back here. It's building things that, again, it's modern football. You don't think of it, but it matters a lot.
Yeah, you think of dominoes, and I feel like Casey is a big domino to fall for that reason. I think it's kind of like, what do they got going on at NC State? This guy's pretty good. Why is he not leaving to go to a school like Alabama or Ohio State or Georgia? And then I think it's very attractive for potentially that next quarterback is, okay, I can go play with Casey Concepcion. I just saw what they did with Brennan Armstrong. They're winning a bunch of games. Robert and I clearly can kind of craft this that suits best for the offense for me. They probably won't be able to compete with maybe the top couple transfer quarterbacks just because the money is probably different at some of these other schools. But maybe that next tier where a guy wants to go to win, give him a better shot at the NFL, playing with a guy like Casey Concepcion, and who knows, maybe other receivers come in as well because they kind of want to build a receiving core around Casey Concepcion where, as we talked about all year, they're going to be keyed on him. There's going to be opportunities for other receivers to be big-time players in this offense.
Just give you an idea of the market for quarterbacks. Cam Ward, Washington State. Obviously, Washington State and Oregon State are going to be pilfered in the transfer portal. There are reports out there, and you have to take reports with a grain of salt, that Cam Ward, the quarterback, already has 10 $1 million plus offers. So I don't know if NC State's swimming in the $1 million plus yet, but hey, maybe if every 5,000 State fans give $1,000, maybe they will be in the $1 million plus for a quarterback. And by the way, MJ Morris still on the roster and has not said he's going into the portal.
That's what I've kind of found interesting. What those conversations are behind the scenes, I don't know. And
there is a world, there's a possibility where he really did just say, I want another year at NC State, right, and that's why I'm sitting out.
Maybe time has kind of calmed things down, and
I think it would have been worse if Brennan Armstrong came in and the season floundered, and it would have been like, you abandoned us and it
Right.
all went bad.
Right.
But Brennan Armstrong almost made it okay that MJ Morris
Right.
did that because no
It's
harm,
kinda
no foul. We still won.
Right. Time heals all wounds, and to your point, no harm, no foul. I just struggle with when you your motto of your team is one pack, one goal. That doesn't really feel like you're part of one pack, and then hard, tough together. That makes me think of Brennan Armstrong. But I do think MJ is a good kid. You wonder, pure speculation, whether the parents had more of an influence on this than himself, and maybe he wanted to be at NC State all along, and it wasn't really his decision. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, because I thought his name would pop up in that portal almost right away.
Next question, and this will be how we end it. Bowl game. Do you want the Orange Bowl or do you want the Pop-Tarts Bowl?
Orange Bowl.
Even if it's Ohio State.
Even if it's Ohio State. I mean, that's what we've been waiting for at NC State under Dave Doeren, is the championship. It's the big-time bowl game. I mean, nothing wrong with the Pop-Tart Bowl, but we've been to the Pop-Tart Bowl, the Cheez-It Bowl, the whatever bowl was
Every
down
other
in Atlanta.
snack.
I mean, we've been to those.
The
tier
Chicken Wings
below.
Bowl,
I mean,
the Dip Bowl.
It's time for us to play in one of those New Year's Six bowls. That's what we've been waiting for with Dave Doeren. I mean, that's what the whole kind of year 11 thing is now. He clearly showed what a great coach he is, but at the same time, we've been waiting for a championship. We've been waiting for to go to a bowl like that. So I would rather go to the Orange Bowl and lose to Ohio State than I would go to the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Well, so I guess that makes us all massive Florida State fans. You need like a 21, 24 point victory over Louisville. That's how the Orange Bowl becomes a realistic opportunity, because Florida State would then hopefully get to go to the college football playoff, and then that would open up the Orange Bowl to the next highest ranked in the college football playoff ranking ACC team, which is currently Louisville by, I think, 5 spots over NC State, but a shellacking in the ACC championship could knock them down. They'd be coming off back-to-back losses. They'd have the loss to Pitt earlier in the year, and State's 3 losses would be kind of overwhelmingly better losses, if that's one way to look at it. So the Orange Bowl is a possibility. But the reason I asked the question, right, because it sounds on its face stupid to just say like Orange Bowl or Pop-Tarts Bowl, is obviously the Pop-Tarts Bowl, there's a better chance at a 10-win season, which is also something we've been waiting for in the Dave Doeren era. He hasn't gotten the 10-win season. And if you're going up against, an Ohio State or, one of the teams fresh, just barely missing the college football playoff, 10-win season becomes a lot more difficult.
It does, but I think from the kind of national landscape, playing in the Orange Bowl, that's a big deal. I mean, that's a huge deal. And 10 wins is great, but I think if you got 9 wins in an Orange Bowl appearance is better than 10 wins in a Pop-Tart Bowl.
There it is. Hopefully the Orange Bowl will be the subject of our next conversation, next week's Pack Therapy. As always, thanks, Mike. As always, thank you out there for listening. Follow us, like, subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends about us. We'll see you next week.